opened our banking app and saw a charge on our shared card that she swore she would never make. On the kitchen table, there was a crumpled receipt, one that wasn't from any place we ever shopped. Denver, Colorado. Has this way of looking clean from a distance. Blue sky, sharp mountains, tidy neighborhoods, until you're inside a real apartment with a real sink full of dishes and a real silence that feels like it's got teeth. That night, I was standing in our kitchen in my socks, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me. The charge sat there on the screen, bold and casual, like it belonged, like I wouldn't notice. I did notice. We weren't rich. We weren't even comfortable the way people say it, like a pillow. We were careful. That was our whole thing. Careful groceries, careful gas, careful little wins, especially lately, because there was always somebody who needed something. A cousin back home, an aunt who just needed help this one time, a family group chat that never slept. Tiana had grown up Haitian like me, but her family ran closer, louder, tighter. I used to love that about her, the warmth, the way our place would fill up with laughter the second her sister Solange showed up. I used to think that kind of closeness was safety. Now, it felt like pressure in the walls. I didn't even mean to snoop. I was trying to move money into savings before rent cleared. My thumb hit the wrong screen. And there it was. A big purchase. Not groceries, not bills, not any of our usual boring life. The worst part wasn't the number. It was how fast my brain started building stories around it. Because once your brain starts, it doesn't stop. It stacks little fears into a tower and then asks you to live under it. I set my phone down and reached for my keys, like motion could save me. That's when I saw the receipt. It was half shoved under a junk mail flyer. The paper was creased and oily like it had been squeezed in someone's fist. I picked it up slowly, like it might burn me, and smoothed it out on the counter. Different store, different neighborhood. A place I'd never heard Tiana mention. The kind of receipt that said, without saying, "I went somewhere I didn't tell you about." I heard the front door click, then the soft scrape of her boots. She came into the kitchen carrying a plastic bag and a tired face. Her hair was pulled back, edges neat, lips pressed like she'd been holding a thought in her mouth for too long. She put the bag down by the sink and glanced at me. Not at the counter, not at the receipt. At me. "What's wrong?" she asked like she already knew. I hated how my voice came out when I answered. Too controlled, too calm, like I was trying to hold the whole apartment steady with words. "Did you use the card today?" I asked. Tiana blinked once. "For groceries." "That's not groceries." I slid my phone across the counter without unlocking it, like it was evidence in a trial and I was scared to touch it too much. She didn't pick it up right away. She stared at it first. Then she exhaled through her nose, a tiny sound, almost a laugh. But there was no humor in it. "Why are you checking the account like that?" she said. My stomach tightened. No. Not. What are you talking about?" "Just blame," wrapped in a question. "Because we're short," I said. "Because rent. Because we've been talking about being careful." Tiana finally picked up the phone. Her eyes moved across the screen, and for half a second I saw something flicker in her face. Not guilt exactly. More like calculation. Like she was deciding which version of herself to hand me. She put the phone down. "It's handled." "Handled how?" I asked. She turned toward the fridge, opened it, stared inside like the answer might be on the top shelf. "I'll fix it, Andre." That word, fix, hit me like a cold spoon. Because fix was what you said when something broke, when something happened that shouldn't have happened. I tapped the receipt with one finger. And this? Her eyes dropped to the paper. The moment she saw it, her shoulders shifted. Just slightly, but I felt it in my bones. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "It was on our table," I said. "In our kitchen." Tiana's jaw clenched. She reached for the receipt, but not like someone grabbing trash, like someone trying to retrieve a secret before it could be read out loud. "Don't," I said, and my hand covered it. For a second, we were frozen. Me on the left side of the counter, her on the right, both of us leaning in like the kitchen was a boxing ring and the receipt was the bell. Her eyes were glossy, but her face was hard. Angry, hard. Defensive, hard. "You don't trust me," she said. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. "Tiana, I'm literally holding a receipt from a store I didn't know you went to, and our card has a charge that doesn't make sense. What am I supposed to do? Smile?" She opened her mouth to answer, but the buzzer went off. Not the phone. The building buzzer. Tiana flinched like it was a slap. I looked at the screen on the wall. Solange's name was on it. Of course it was. Solange didn't knock. Solange arrived. I pressed the button and the door downstairs clicked open. I heard the elevator whir. Tiana's face tightened like she'd been hoping the universe would delay her sister by 5 minutes. I didn't move the receipt. I didn't put my phone away. I stood there with the evidence out and I hated myself for it, because part of me wanted Solange to see. Part of me wanted a witness. That thought scared me more than the charge. Solange came in like a gust. Big hoop earrings, a shiny puffer jacket, a smile already loaded. She stopped the second she saw the atmosphere. "Oh," she said, eyes bouncing from my face to Tiana's. "What happened?" "Nothing," Tiana snapped too fast. Solange raised both hands. Okay. I'm just here to drop off the backpack." She set our son's backpack on the chair by the table, right next to the crumpled receipt, then leaned back like she could feel the heat radiating off us. My son wasn't in the room, but somehow his backpack being there made everything feel uglier, like the fight had entered a new category. Solange spotted the receipt. Her eyes narrowed. "What's that?" Tiana reached for it again, and this time she got it, snatched it, and folded it in half like that would erase it. "Nothing," she said again, sharper. Solange's eyebrows lifted. "That's not nothing energy." Tiana glared at her. "Can you not?" Solange looked at me. "Andre?" I didn't want to involve her. I also didn't want to be alone with this anymore. Those two wants collided in my throat. Before I could answer, my phone lit up again with a text preview. No name, just a number. "Don't bring this up in front of Solange. Please." When I unlocked the phone, the message was gone. Not deleted later. Gone instantly, like it never existed. A quiet chill slid down my back, the kind you feel when you realize the house has been rearranged while you were still living in it. I stared at the empty screen, thumb hovering over the chat list. Nothing. No thread, no notification history. Just clean. Tiana saw my face change. Her eyes flicked to the phone, then away. Solange noticed, too. "What is going on?" she demanded, voice rising. "Tiana, what did you do?" Tiana's lips parted, and for 1 second she looked like she might tell the truth, like she might drop the act and say something real. Instead, she turned on me. "You're obsessed," she said, loud enough for Solange to hear every syllable. "You track the money, you track the car, you track everything. It's sick." My chest went tight. "I'm not tracking you. I'm trying to understand what's happening to our account." Solange stepped closer, eyes flashing. Wait, are you saying Andre controls the money? Tiana's stare didn't leave me. He thinks he owns it. Something in me cracked. Not a full break, but a hairline split. Because I suddenly saw the play. Turn the light on me so nobody looks at her. The building buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Solange. It was Kevin, my best friend. The guy who worked the same warehouse shifts as me, who knew our kid's birthday, who'd eaten at our table enough times to know where we kept the hot sauce. He was the last person I wanted walking into this scene. I didn't even press the button right away. I just stared at the screen, my hand hovering, while Tiana stood on the right side of the kitchen with the receipt clenched in her fist, and Solange stood between us like a referee who hadn't decided who she hated yet. Then I let Kevin in anyway, because apparently I was committed to turning my life into a crowd. Kevin walked in, took one look at our faces, and stopped mid-step. "Damn," he said quietly. "Did I walk into something?" And right then, like the universe wanted to twist the knife, Kevin's phone buzzed. He glanced down and the color drained out of his face. He looked at me, then at Tiana, then back at me. "Andre," he said, voice low, "I just got an email from work. They're saying money went missing, and your name is on the report." Kevin held his phone out like it was radioactive. The screen was bright against the dim kitchen, and I could see my own name in the middle of a paragraph that didn't look like a mistake. My stomach did this slow drop, like an elevator cable snapped but the fall hadn't started yet. "Let me see," I said. He didn't want to hand it over. Not because he didn't trust me, because if I touched it, it would become real. But he passed it across the counter anyway, and my fingers left a damp print on his case. It wasn't a full email thread, more like a forwarded notice. Something internal, stiff wording, cold, the kind of message that didn't ask questions. It announced outcomes. I felt Tiana behind me, close enough that her perfume and heat wrapped around my shoulders. Solange stood on the other side of the table with our son's backpack beside her like a little hostage. 4 adults in one kitchen, all staring at one glowing rectangle. A perfect frozen frame. Kevin's phone in my hands, the crumpled receipt half unfolded on the counter, my keyring pushed aside, our kid's backpack slumped on a chair, Tiana's face tight with anger, Solange's eyes wide like she was watching a fight she'd been waiting to see. "Your name is on the report," Kevin said again, quieter. "They're saying you approved something you weren't supposed to approve." I scrolled, then stopped because my brain was refusing to take in more. It was like reading your own obituary. "This doesn't make sense," I said. Kevin, I don't handle cash like that. We log inventory, we track shipments. If something goes missing, it's cameras, it's audits, it's you," Solange cut in, sharp as a snap. "It's always him, always a story, always a reason." I turned toward her. "Why are you acting like you want this?" Solange shrugged with that look she got when she was protecting her sister, but enjoying the power too. "Because I've seen what you do, Andre. You like being the only one who looks right." Tiana's voice rose behind me. "He's been obsessed with money lately. Every day it's the account, the account, the account." I spun to face her. "Because we're bleeding cash and you won't tell me why." Her eyes flashed. "Stop talking like I'm stealing from you." "I didn't say that," I said, but my voice sounded like a lie even to me. Kevin lifted both hands, trying to calm the air. Okay. Look, I came over because you texted me earlier about the shift swap, and now I walk into this. But the work thing is serious. If they're putting your name on a report, they're not playing." That word, report, hit my spine. Reports became HR meetings. HR meetings became suspensions. Suspensions became the kind of quiet humiliation that leaks into everything. Rent, school, family, reputation. I reached for my own phone, half expecting it to already be buzzing with the same message. Nothing. I stared at the screen anyway, like staring harder would force the truth to show up. Tiana's gaze flicked to my phone, then to Kevin's, and I hated that my mind went there. Hated it. But the timing was too clean. A weird charge, a weird receipt, a deleted text, and now an accusation at work with my name stamped on it like an official curse. My throat felt dry. "When did you get this?" 10 minutes ago, Kevin said. "I was leaving my place. I almost didn't come." Solange scoffed. "Maybe you should have listened to your instincts." Kevin's jaw tightened. "I'm not your enemy, Solange." "No," she said, tilting her head. "You're just his." Tiana snapped. "Stop, both of you." But she wasn't stopping anything. Her hands were trembling, and she kept opening and closing her fingers like she wanted to grab something and couldn't decide what. I looked down at the receipt again because it was the only physical thing in the room. Paper, ink, proof you could touch. "Tiana," I said slower, "tell me what that charge is." She swallowed. It's family." Solange's head lifted. "Don't—" Tiana shot her a look that shut her up mid-syllable. "Family," I repeated. "Whose?" Tiana's eyes shone. Not tears exactly, more like pressure. "My aunt in Florida," she said. "She called. She needs help." Solange jumped in instantly, unable to resist. "She needs help because she's sick, and because nobody else is stepping up, and because you always act like Tiana's family is some burden." Kevin glanced at me, awkward, like he'd stepped onto a landmine he didn't know was there. "I didn't even argue about the aunt. Haitian families didn't ask," they announced. "And when they announced, you either paid or you became the villain in every future story. But still." "We have a process," I said. "We talk. We decide. We don't hide receipts on the table like we're sneaking around each other." Tiana's voice cracked. "I didn't hide it. I forgot it." "Then what about the text that vanished?" I asked. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "What text?" I stared at her. She was good. Maybe too good. Solange leaned forward. "Oh my God, he's doing it again. Making stuff up." "I saw it," I said. "It popped up. It said, 'Don't bring this up in front of Solange.' Then it disappeared." Kevin frowned. "Disappeared how?" "Like it never happened," I said. "Like somebody cleaned the floor while I was still standing on it." The kitchen went quiet for a beat. A quiet so thick I could hear the refrigerator hum. Tiana's face softened for half a second, and in that softness I saw fear. Real fear. The kind you don't perform. Then her phone rang. She jumped so hard her shoulder hit the cabinet, and a mug on the drying rack tipped over. It didn't break, but it made this loud, hollow clack that felt like a warning. Tiana looked at the screen and paled. She didn't answer right away. Solange saw the name and immediately went rigid. "Don't," she hissed. Tiana pressed accept anyway and put it on speaker like she wanted witnesses. A woman's voice filled the kitchen. Older, commanding, familiar even to me. "Tiana," her mother said, not greeting, not asking how she was. "You sent something." Tiana's throat worked. "I'm trying." "You said tonight," her mother replied. "Your aunt is calling me crying. Do you want people to say we don't take care of our own?" Solange snapped, "Mama, stop." "Don't tell me stop," her mother said instantly. I'm talking to your sister. This is not a game." My chest tightened. That was the war no one talked about in public. Obligation as a weapon. Reputation as a rope around your neck. Tiana kept her eyes on me while she spoke to her mother. I said, "I'm trying." "You have a husband," her mother said, voice like a blade wrapped in velvet. "He works. You live in America. Don't tell me you can't." Solange glared at me like I was personally holding a lock on the money. I didn't say anything because if I opened my mouth, I would explode. Tiana whispered, "I'll call you back," and ended the call with a shaking thumb. Then she looked at me and said, almost pleading, "Do you see? Do you see what I'm dealing with?" I did. I did see. And I also saw the way she was choosing them over us in small, constant cuts. Kevin cleared his throat. "Andre, I don't want to pile on, but you need to check your email. Like, now." I opened my phone again, and as if it had been waiting for the right moment to stab me, the notification finally popped. A calendar invite. No greeting. No question. Just a block of text and a time. I tapped it, and my heart hammered so loud it felt like the whole room could hear it. The invite was from HR. Mandatory meeting. Investigation. My name. I stared at it until the words blurred. Solange leaned in and read over my shoulder, then smiled like she'd just won something. "Wow," she said, soft and cruel. "Maybe the money thing isn't just at home." Kevin said, "That's not fair." Tiana's hand flew to her mouth. She looked genuinely shocked, and for a second I wanted to believe her, wanted to believe she was on my side. But then her eyes slid away from mine. Just a little, like she was looking at the door, like she was thinking about who she needed to call. Another quiet horror bloomed in my chest, the possibility that everyone already knew something I didn't. I forced myself to breathe. "Kevin," I said, "did you tell anyone you were coming here?" He shook his head. "No." "Did you forward that email to anyone?" "No." I looked at Tiana. "Did you?" She looked offended. "Why would I?" "Andre, stop." But her denial came too fast, too clean, like she had practiced saying it. And then Kevin's phone buzzed again. He glanced down and his face went blank in a way that scared me more than panic. He turned the screen toward me slowly, like he was afraid I might swing at him. It was a message preview. From a group chat. A photo. It was me, in my work vest, standing by the shipping cage, my hand on the lock, and underneath it, one sentence that made my stomach drop into my knees. He did this. I saw him. I looked up at Kevin. "Who sent that?" Kevin didn't answer right away. He just swallowed and said the one name I didn't expect to hear. "Tiana." "Tiana," I repeated like my mouth didn't believe my ears. "You sent that?" Kevin's phone was still in his hand, the group chat open like a wound. My name. My face. That sentence. He did this. I saw him. Sitting under it like a verdict. Tiana's eyes snapped to the screen, then to me. For a second she looked genuinely confused, like she'd walked into the middle of a sentence. "I didn't send anything," she said. Solange let out a sharp, fake laugh. "Oh my God, here we go. Now he's gonna say you hacked his life." Kevin's voice stayed careful. "Andre, it's from her contact, her number." I stepped closer to the counter, heart hammering, and held my hand out, palm up, like I was asking for something sacred. "Let me see that." Kevin hesitated, then handed it over. I scrolled up. The message sat there with a timestamp. It didn't look forwarded. It didn't look edited. It looked like it was typed by someone calm enough to ruin me in a single line, and beneath it, reactions, shocked emojis, angry replies, people I worked with saying things like, "I knew it," and "Call HR." Guys who'd shared lunches with me, guys who'd asked me for rides. My vision tunneled. I turned the phone toward Tiana. "Explain this." Her face hardened so fast it scared me. "You're blaming me for your work problems now?" "I'm blaming you for sending a message from your number that says you saw me steal money," I said, and my voice was shaking even though I was trying to clamp it down. Tiana's breath came shallow. "I don't even know what that is." Solange stepped in, shoulders squared like she was physically trying to block the words from reaching her sister. "Give him his little show, T. He's spiraling. He's trying to drag you into his mess so he can feel less guilty." "Stop calling me guilty," I snapped louder than I meant to. The sound bounced off the cabinets. Our apartment suddenly felt tiny, like the walls were leaning in to listen. Then my son's bedroom door creaked open. Little feet shuffled into the hallway. He stood there in pajama pants that were too short, hair sticking up, clutching a stuffed dinosaur like it was a shield. "What's happening?" he asked, voice small and sleepy. The room changed instantly, like someone threw a blanket over a fire. Even Solange's face flickered. Tiana's eyes filled, this time with actual tears, and she forced her voice soft. "Nothing, baby. Go back to bed." He looked at me, then at Kevin, then at the backpack on the chair like it meant something. He held the dinosaur tighter. "Are you mad at Mom?" That question hit me right in the chest, because there are fights you can survive as adults, but kids remember the shape of your anger. "I'm not mad at Mom," I said quickly, lying through my teeth. "Go back to bed, okay? I'll tuck you in a minute." He hesitated like he didn't trust any of us, then turned around and disappeared into his room. The second the door clicked shut, the blanket came off the fire. I looked at Tiana again, and my voice dropped. "Show me your phone." Her head jerked back. "What?" "Show me your phone," I repeated. "Right now." Solange snapped. "No." Kevin tried. "Andre." But I couldn't stop. Not after the deleted text, not after the charge, not after seeing my own name getting dragged through a group chat like trash. "Tiana," I said slower. "If you didn't send it, then prove it." Tiana's hands went to her hoodie pocket, then stopped. Her eyes flicked toward the living room couch where her purse sat. That tiny glance was louder than any confession. I felt cold, the way you feel when you realize you're not the only one playing the game. Solange moved first, scooping up Tiana's purse and holding it close like it was a baby. "Absolutely not," she said. "You're not doing this." I stepped around the counter, and Solange stepped in front of me. She wasn't taller than me, but she had that family confidence, like the apartment belonged to her the second she walked in. "You're not going through her phone," she repeated slower. "You don't get to control her like that." "Control?" I said, almost choking on it. "I'm trying to clear my name. Your sister just dropped a grenade into my job." Solange's eyes narrowed. "Or you dropped it yourself and you're looking for a woman to blame." Kevin's voice cracked a little. "Guys, please." Tiana finally spoke, but she didn't answer my request. She went around it. "You want my phone? Fine. But then you're giving me yours too, because I'm done with you acting like I'm the only one with secrets." That should have sounded fair. Instead, it sounded rehearsed. My phone buzzed in my hand. A voicemail notification. I tapped it without thinking, thumb slick with sweat. It was my supervisor, Marco. His voice came through low and tight, like he was calling from somewhere he didn't want anyone to hear. Andre, don't come in tonight. Don't go on the floor. HR set a meeting for the morning. They pulled footage. Just answer your email and don't do anything stupid, okay? My skin prickled. Pulled footage meant cameras. Cameras meant they had something. Or they wanted me to believe they did. I played it again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Solange heard it and smiled like she'd been waiting for that line. "Oh, look," she said, sweet and poisonous. "Footage." Tiana's face went pale. She didn't look at me. She looked at Kevin. And that terrified me because it felt like she was checking whether he was still on my side. Kevin was staring at the floor like he wanted to disappear through it. "Andre," he said quietly, "I swear I don't know how your name ended up in that chat. But people are already talking. They're going to make you the story." I stared at Tiana. "Did you send it to them?" "I told you I didn't," she said, and her voice finally cracked like the truth was trying to push through. "I don't even have that group chat." I blinked. "What?" "I don't," she repeated, louder, frustrated. "I don't have your co-workers on my phone. Why would I?" Solange jumped in instantly. "Exactly. That's what I'm saying." My pulse thudded behind my eyes. I scrolled through Kevin's phone again, looking for the group name. It wasn't Warehouse Crew. It wasn't Shift B. It wasn't anything work-related. It was called Family BBQ Planning. I froze, because that name hit me like a memory. Months ago, Kevin's girlfriend had tried to plan a summer cookout, invited a bunch of people, and for some reason Tiana had gotten added early on. She'd laughed about it, said she didn't even know half the numbers, then muted it and forgot about it. Except now it wasn't muted. Now it was a weapon. I looked up slowly. "You were in this chat," Tiana swallowed, "a long time ago. And you still had access," I said. Solange shook her head hard. No, he's twisting it." I wasn't twisting anything. I was watching puzzle pieces fall into place without showing me the full picture. I held Kevin's phone up between us, and for a second the scene locked into something you could print as a thumbnail. Tiana on the right, her face wet and furious, one hand gripping her purse strap like a lifeline. Solange in the middle with her palms out like she was blocking a hit. Me on the left, leaning forward with Kevin's glowing phone held up like evidence. Kevin in the back, stunned, mouth half open. The crumpled receipt and my keys scattered on the counter. My son's backpack slumped on the chair like a silent witness. Tiana's voice came out small. "Andre, I didn't do that." I stared at her. "Then who did?" Silence. Not a peaceful silence. A loaded one. The kind that tells you someone is choosing what to reveal. My eyes went to her purse again. "Give me your phone, please." Her mouth tightened. She shook her head once. "Not with Solange here." Solange snapped. "Don't you dare!" Tiana cut her off, sharp. "Enough." Solange went quiet like she'd been slapped. Tiana turned to me, trembling. "If I give it to you, you're going to take one thing and turn it into a whole story." I couldn't stop the bitterness. My whole life is turning into a story. Kevin stepped forward, voice careful. "Andre, maybe you should just go to HR tomorrow and—" "Tomorrow might be too late," I said, because the smear was already moving. My name was already being passed around like a warning label. I reached for my keys. Tiana moved fast, faster than I'd seen her move all night, and grabbed them first. She closed her fist around them so tight the metal dug into her skin. "What are you doing?" I asked. Her eyes burned. "You're not going anywhere." My breath caught. "Excuse me." "I'm not letting you run out and do something stupid," she said, voice rising. "You're upset. You're angry. You'll make it worse." Solange nodded hard. "Yes, exactly. He's gonna go handle it like a man, and then we'll all be cleaning up the mess." Something in me went cold and clear. "Give me my keys." Tiana didn't move. "No." My hands shook. "Tiana, this is my job. This is our rent. This is our kid. Hand me my keys." Her jaw clenched. "If you leave, you're choosing this fight over your family." That word, family, landed like a chain, because in her mouth, family didn't mean us. It meant the whole crowd, the expectations, the pressure, the people who could ruin you with a phone call and then say it was love. Kevin took one step toward us. "Tiana, come on." She didn't even look at him. She looked at me like she was daring me to snatch them from her hand, to become the villain she could describe later. I stared at her fist around my keys and realized something awful. She wasn't just blocking me. She was testing me. And then her phone lit up on the couch, screen flashing with an incoming call. The contact name on it made Solange stiff like a statue. Marco, warehouse. My supervisor, calling my wife. I didn't say a word. I just stared at that glowing name until my blood went ice cold. The name, Marco, warehouse, flashed across Tiana's phone like a flare. The screen lit up on the couch, bright in the dim living room, and the ringtone cut through everything. Through Solange's breath, through Kevin's silence, through the hum of the fridge like the apartment itself had been holding its breath. Tiana didn't move. She just stared at it. Solange's face went tight. "Don't answer," she mouthed, like it was a command, not advice. Kevin looked at me with the kind of pity that makes you want to punch a wall. "Andre, why would your supervisor be calling her?" I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. My mouth went dry. My heartbeat turned into this heavy, steady thud like footsteps coming down a hallway. "Tiana," I said low, "why does Marco have your number?" She swallowed. He doesn't." The phone kept ringing. I stepped toward the couch. Tiana moved too, fast, like she'd been waiting for my body to commit so she could block it. She held my keys in one hand and reached for the phone with the other, grabbing it off the cushion like it was a weapon she couldn't let me touch. She didn't answer. She just silenced it. The sudden quiet felt worse than the ringtone. "What was that?" I asked. Tiana's eyes stayed on the screen, thumb hovering like she was deciding whether to live in the lie or climb out of it. "It's probably emergency contact stuff," she said too quickly. "HR, forms." "Marco isn't HR," I snapped. Solange cut in, voice sharp. "You're not going to interrogate her about a phone call. That's insane." I stared at Tiana. "Show me the call log." Tiana's lips pressed together. Her thumb moved once and the screen dimmed. Locked. Like a door closing in my face. A quiet horror crawled up my spine, slow and thick. The feeling of being trapped in a room where someone keeps turning the lights off whenever you look at the corners. "Unlock it," I said. "No," she said. Kevin took a careful step forward. "Tiana, if it's nothing, just show him." Solange snapped her head toward Kevin. "Stay out of it. This is between them." Kevin's jaw tightened. "I am out of it. I'm standing in their kitchen watching his life get lit on fire." Tiana's eyes glistened again. She shook her head like she was trying to shake off an image only she could see. "Andre, you're scaring me." I laughed once, bitter. "I'm scaring you. You're—" She lifted my keys slightly, her fist still closed around them. "You're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking extremely straight," I said. My supervisor's calling you. My name is being smeared in a chat that you were in. Money is missing, and now you're holding my keys like I'm a kid." Solange stepped closer to me, chin up. "Maybe because you act like one when you don't get your way." Something inside me snapped tighter, not louder. I turned away from Solange and looked at Kevin, because Kevin was the only adult in the room who wasn't related to my problem. "Can you drive me?" I asked him. Kevin blinked. "Right now?" "Right now," I said. "I'm not sitting here while my job falls apart." Tiana's voice rose. "No." I didn't even look at her. "Kevin?" Kevin hesitated, just long enough to show me he knew he was stepping into something that would stain him too, then nodded once. Yeah, I can." Solange exploded. "That's crazy. He's going to do something stupid." "I'm going to do something smart," I said. "I'm going to ask why my supervisor is calling my wife instead of me." Tiana stepped between me and the door, keys still clenched. Her face was wet now, tears finally breaking free, but her eyes were hard like she was forcing herself to hold a line. "If you leave," she said, voice shaking, "don't come back like you didn't choose this over us." Over us. That word again, twisted, like I hadn't been choosing us. Every day I stayed calm. Every day I ignored the pressure from her mother. Every day I let the family needs creep into our budget like a slow leak. I stared at her for a long beat. Then I said the quietest thing I'd said all night. "I don't know who us is anymore." Her mouth opened and she looked like she wanted to argue, but no sound came out. From the hallway, the softest creak, my son's door again, barely open. A tiny eye watching us through the crack. I dropped my voice. "Move, Tiana. Please." She didn't. Kevin walked toward the door anyway. Not pushing her, not touching her, just standing there with his car keys in his hand like a lifeline. Tiana glanced at him, then at Solange, like she needed permission. Solange gave her a look that said, "Hold the line." Tiana finally stepped aside, not fully, but enough to let Kevin slip past. I followed, and as I passed her, I saw her grip on my keys so tight her knuckles were white. A little part of me wanted to rip them from her hand just to prove I could. I didn't, because I knew exactly how that story would get told later. In the hallway outside our apartment, Kevin exhaled like he'd been underwater. "This is bad," he murmured. "Yeah," I said. We stepped into the cold Denver night, the kind of cold that feels clean and cruel. The parking lot was slick in patches where the snowmelt refroze. The streetlights made everything look like a film scene. Yellow pools of light, long shadows, empty cars that felt like they were listening. Kevin's car smelled like energy drink and pine air freshener. I slid into the passenger seat and stared straight ahead like if I didn't move, I wouldn't shatter. The second Kevin started the engine, my phone buzzed again. An email this time. From HR. Subject line. Notice of administrative leave, effective immediately. My hands went numb. I opened it, and the words hit like a shove to the chest. It wasn't a conversation. It was an announcement. Effective immediately. Turn in badge. Do not return to the premises until further notice. Attached was a screenshot. A still from security footage. Grainy, washed out, timestamp in the corner. A figure at the shipping cage. My warehouse vest. My body shape. One arm extended toward the lock. The kind of image that tells a story even if the story is wrong. Kevin glanced over while driving. "They already have a picture?" "Yeah," I said, voice hollow. "They already decided what they want people to see." I zoomed in, heart pounding. The face was blurry, But the vest was clear. The stance looked like mine. The hand placement. Too familiar. Then my eyes dropped to the timestamp, and something in my chest tightened again, different this time. Not panic. Recognition. Because that time was when I was supposed to be at home. I pulled up my phone's calendar, fingers trembling, and scrolled to that day. I'd had a scheduled video call with the school, our son's teacher, a meeting about his reading. I still had the reminder. 2:30 p.m. Teacher call, Ms. Rivera. The screenshot timestamp said 2:31 p.m. My skin prickled. Either my memory was lying to me, or someone wanted me to forget where I actually was. "Kevin," I said, throat tight. "Where were you on Tuesday, around 2:30? Kevin's eyes stayed on the road. "At work. Why?" "Were you near the cage?" He hesitated. I don't think so." "You don't think so," I repeated sharp. "Kevin, I need you to be sure." Kevin swallowed, then said quietly, "Andre, that day, I left early. Remember? My girlfriend's sister had a thing." He didn't look at me when he said it, like he was afraid of what my face would do. My phone buzzed again. Another incoming call. This time it wasn't Marco. It was Tiana. I stared at her name on the screen while Kevin drove through the cold, empty streets, and my mind did that awful thing where it connects dots you don't want connected. I answered. "Tiana," I said. Her voice came through thin and breathy like she'd been running. "Andre." Marco called me again. My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" There was a pause, just long enough to feel like she was looking around before speaking. Then she whispered, "He asked me if you were still mad, and if you've ever talked about taking money from work." My whole body went cold. "And what did you tell him?" Her breath caught on the line, and in that tiny catch I heard the thing I'd been afraid to hear all night. Hesitation. Then she said softly, "Andre." I didn't know what to say. And right as she said it, Kevin's dashboard clock flipped to 2:31. The same time as the screenshot, like the universe was mocking me. I gripped my phone so hard my hand hurt. "Tiana," I said, voice shaking, "did you just help him build a case against me?" She didn't answer. All I could hear was her breathing. Fast, scared, guilty sounding, and the hum of Kevin's tires on cold pavement as we turned into the warehouse district. Lights and cameras and fences rising ahead like a prison I hadn't been sentenced to yet. And then, as we pulled into the lot, I saw a car parked near the side entrance that made my blood stop. Tiana's car, engine off, lights off, like it had been waiting. Seeing Tiana's car parked near the side entrance made my brain stall, like somebody yanked the power cord on my thoughts. No lights, no engine. Just her sedan sitting there under a buzzing security lamp, snow crusted along the tires. It looked abandoned, but it wasn't. I could feel it wasn't. Kevin slowed, gripping the wheel. "That's her car." "I know," I said, and my voice sounded like it came from someone else. He pulled into a spot a few rows away. The warehouse sat ahead like a giant dark box with bright edges. Floodlights, fences, cameras mounted high like unblinking eyes. The lot was mostly empty at this hour, the kind of empty that makes every footstep feel too loud. My phone buzzed again. A text from Tiana. "Please don't go inside. Please." I stared at it, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed, "Where are you? Why is your car here?" I hit send, and the message failed. One red exclamation point like a tiny warning flare. No service or no permission. I tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. The cold got into my lungs as soon as I stepped out. The air smelled like metal and wet concrete. Kevin stayed close behind me, shoulders hunched, scanning the lot like he expected something to move. Halfway to her car, I noticed the driver's seat. A silhouette. Someone was inside. I walked faster, heart slamming, and my shoes squeaked on a patch of refrozen melt. The closer I got, the more my body remembered all the times I'd walked up to her car with groceries and jokes and normal life. This wasn't normal life. I tapped the window once. Not hard, just enough to say I'm here. The silhouette jolted. The door unlocked with a click that sounded like a confession. Tiana pushed it open and stepped out into the light. Her face was streaked with tears that had dried in tracks. Her hair was still pulled back but messy now, like she'd been tugging at it. She looked smaller than she had in the kitchen, like the night had drained something out of her. She didn't say hi. She didn't say sorry. She just said, "Andre, please." "What are you doing here?" I asked. Her eyes flicked past me to Kevin and her mouth tightened. "Why did you bring him?" "He drove," I said. "Because you took my keys." She flinched at that, like my words were a slap she deserved but didn't want. "I didn't come to fight." "Then why are you parked outside my job?" I asked, voice rising. "On the same night HR puts me on leave?" Her hands lifted halfway, palms open, a gesture that looked like surrender and control at the same time. "Marco called." I felt my stomach drop, slow and sick. Of course he did. He said if I cared about you, I'd come," she whispered. "He said it would look better if your wife showed up, if I made a statement." "A statement," I repeated. "About what?" Tiana swallowed. Her eyes went glassy again. "About you. About how you've been. About money." Kevin's voice cut in, sharp. "That's insane. Why would he ask her?" Tiana snapped her head toward Kevin. "Because he already thinks Andre is guilty," she said, then immediately softened like she regretted saying it out loud. "Or he wants everyone to." I stared at her. "Did you tell him I talked about taking money?" Her lips parted. Nothing came out. Quiet horror washed through me. Calm, cold, precise. Not panic, not rage. Just the realization that my life was being assembled by other people's sentences. "Tiana," I said lower, "did you do it?" Her chin trembled. "I didn't say you took anything." "That's not what I asked," I said. Her eyes squeezed shut for a second, then opened wet and furious. "I said you've been stressed," she whispered. "I said you were tracking everything, watching accounts, acting like you couldn't breathe. I said you were angry." Kevin exhaled through his teeth, disgusted. "Tiana!" "I was trying to protect him," she snapped, then immediately looked like she might collapse. "Do you think I wanted to be here? Marco was texting me like he owned me, like if I didn't come he'd make it worse." My phone buzzed again. Service flickered back just enough to deliver one more blow. An email notification. From Marco's address. Subject: Andre. Final opportunity. My hands went numb as I opened it. The body was short. Too short. It said he needed me to cooperate, that outside parties are now involved, and that if I showed up, it would be considered an act of accountability. Attached was another screenshot. This one was a zoomed-in still from the same camera, cropped tighter. The face was still smeared by low quality and light glare, but one detail was clear as a knife. A wrist. A bracelet. Dark beads with one bright red bead. My breath caught because I'd seen that bracelet 1,000 times. Not on me. On Kevin. I turned slowly. Kevin was standing a few feet behind me, hands shoved into his jacket pockets, expression fixed on the warehouse like he couldn't bear to look anywhere else. My eyes dropped to his wrist. No bracelet, bare skin. My throat went tight. "Kevin," I said. He finally looked at me. "What?" "Where's your bracelet?" I asked. His face didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Something quick and defensive. "What bracelet?" "The beaded one," I said, voice rising. "The one you wear every day. The one your girlfriend gave you." Kevin blinked. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stared at him, and it was like watching a friend become a stranger in real time. Tiana's breath hitched. "Andre, stop. You're spiraling." I held my phone up toward them, the screenshot glowing in my hand. The warehouse fence behind us cast striped shadows across the snow. The camera above the side door pointed straight down like it was recording this too. A perfect frozen frame again. Me on the left under a harsh light, jaw clenched, phone held up like a verdict. Tiana on the right with a hand pressed to her mouth, eyes terrified. Kevin in the middle, shoulders squared, face blank. The fence and security camera towering behind. Tiana's car door half open, my keys nowhere in sight, the cold turning all our breath into visible smoke. Kevin glanced at the screenshot and scoffed like it was ridiculous. "That's not me." "Then why does it look like your bracelet?" I asked. He took one step closer, voice dropping. "Because you want it to. Because you need someone else to be the villain." I flinched like he'd slapped me with words. Tiana grabbed my sleeve. "Andre, please, don't do this here." "Here," I said, ripping my arm away. "You brought me here." "I didn't bring you," she whispered. "Marco did." I looked at her, really looked, and saw something I hadn't seen in the kitchen. Not just fear, but shame. The kind that comes from being caught between loyalties and choosing wrong. The side entrance door opened. A security guard stepped out first, heavy jacket, flashlight in hand. Behind him, tall silhouette, confident stride, Marco. Even from a distance, Marco moved like he was in charge of air. He had that calm smile people use when they know the paperwork already favors them. He lifted a hand as if we were old friends. "Andre." My throat went dry. "Marco." Marco's eyes flicked to Tiana, then to Kevin, then back to me. His smile didn't change. "You weren't supposed to come," he said, voice smooth. "But I'm glad you did. Shows initiative." "Why were you calling my wife?" I demanded. Marco's eyebrows rose like I'd asked something childish. "Because she reached out to us." Tiana's face went white. "What?" she whispered. Marco kept his gaze on me. "She was concerned. Said you'd been talking about money a lot. Said you were acting. Unpredictable." My ears started ringing. I looked at Tiana. She shook her head fast, tears spilling. "I didn't reach out. I didn't. Andre, I swear." Marco's smile widened just a fraction. "There's no need to be emotional," he said, and the way he said it made my hands curl into fists. The security guard stepped forward, flashlight beam cutting across our faces like a spotlight. "Sir," he said to me, "you're trespassing. HR told us if you showed up, we're to call Denver PD." Kevin shifted beside me. "Hey, come on." Marco lifted a hand, silencing him without even looking. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. He held it up like a prize. "Andre," he said, still calm, Before anyone calls anyone, I want to offer you something. I stared at the envelope. What is that? Marco's eyes met mine, and for the first time all night I saw something sharp behind his friendliness. A signed statement, he said, from someone who was actually there at 2:31. My stomach turned to ice. Who? Marco nodded toward the envelope, then toward Kevin, just a tiny tilt of his chin. Kevin's face tightened. And that was the moment I understood the worst part. This wasn't just my job falling apart. This was my whole world being handed to me in pieces, and someone else was deciding which pieces I was allowed to hold. Marco held the envelope like it was a peace offering, but his eyes were pure pressure. The security guard's flashlight kept drifting across my face, catching the steam of my breath like I was already guilty. Kevin didn't look at the envelope. He didn't look at me. His gaze stayed fixed on the ground, like the asphalt might open and save him. Open it, Marco said, calm. Read it, then we can all stop wasting time. Tiana was shaking beside her car, one hand gripping the open door, the other pressed to her mouth. Her cheeks were wet. She looked like she wanted to disappear into the seat and lock herself in. I didn't reach for the envelope. I lifted my phone instead, screen glowing in my palm. You said someone was there at 2:31, I told Marco. I wasn't. Marco's smile barely moved. You were on camera. I was on a call, I said, and my voice came out rough. With my son's teacher. Marco's eyes narrowed, just a fraction. Convenient. Quiet horror settled over me. Not loud, not dramatic, just this dead, icy certainty that he'd rehearsed every counter-argument to my life. The kind of certainty you feel when you realize you're not arguing with a person, you're arguing with a plan. Tiana whispered, Andre, please, just go. I can fix this. I stared at her. You said that in the kitchen, too. She flinched like I'd slapped her with the memory. The security guard stepped forward. Sir, last warning. Leave. I didn't move. I couldn't. Not with my name being dragged through a workplace like it was entertainment. Not with my kid asleep thinking his dad was mad at Mom. Not with my wife parked outside my job like she was part of the operation. Then my phone buzzed with something that made my throat close. A push notification from our little indoor security camera app, the cheap one I'd installed above the hallway shoe rack months ago after a break-in scare in the building. I'd almost forgotten about it because it mostly showed nothing. Shoes, backpacks, a slice of our front door. Boring safety. The alert said, Motion detected. Tuesday, 2:30 p.m. My pulse hammered. Tuesday, 2:30. That timestamp. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone as I opened the clip. The video loaded in grainy, silent color. And there I was. Not at the warehouse. Not at the shipping cage. Me, on our couch, laptop open on the coffee table, my son's reading worksheets spread out, my voice clearly moving my mouth even though the clip had no sound. I could see the little floating window of a video call on my laptop screen, blurred enough to be unreadable, but I knew exactly who was on the other side. Ms. Rivera. I watched myself nod, point to the worksheet, smile like a tired dad trying his best. At exactly 2:31. My son ran past in the background in his little socks, dinosaur in his hand. Then the front door opened. Solange stepped into frame. She moved like she belonged there, like the apartment was hers. She didn't call out. She didn't look for us. She went straight to the laundry basket by the entryway, where I'd tossed my work vest the night before. She picked it up. She shook it out. She slipped it into a tote bag like it was nothing. Then she looked directly up at the camera for half a second, eyes flat, like she knew it was there and didn't care. Quiet horror. Number 1. Watching someone steal your life in real time, casually, in your own home, while you're sitting 10 feet away trusting them. My throat made a sound I didn't recognize. Kevin leaned in without meaning to, eyes catching the glow from my screen. His face changed. Not surprise, not confusion. Recognition, the look of a man who realizes the air is running out. Tiana's knees seemed to go weak. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Solange?" I held the phone up higher, shoving it toward the light so everyone could see. "I wasn't there," I said, voice cracking now. "I was home." Marco took one step forward, the calm slipping for the first time. "That proves nothing." "It proves everything," I shot back. "Check the time." The security guard's flashlight jittered. He stared at the clip like he didn't want to be involved but couldn't unsee it. Marco's eyes flicked to Kevin again, fast. "Andre, you're trespassing. Hand the phone over and we'll—" "No," I said. Tiana made this small broken sound. "Andre, I didn't know she took your vest." I turned on her, and my voice went quieter, sharper. "Then why did you freeze when you saw the bank charge? Why did you stop me from leaving? Why did you hold my keys like I was dangerous?" Her lips trembled. "Because Solange told me it was for family." That word again. Family. Like a spell people used to make you obey. She fumbled with her phone, hands shaking, and finally unlocked it right there in the cold. "Look," she said, shoving the screen at me. "Look at what Marco sent me. I didn't delete anything, I didn't—" A thread was open. Not Marco as a contact, just a number. One message sat there, blunt and clean. "If you want your aunt's transfer to clear, you'll say you were worried about Andre. You'll show up. You'll cooperate." Under it was a voice note. Tiana hit play without thinking. Solange's voice came through the tiny speaker, low and urgent. "T, don't fight him. Just say you saw Andre near the cage. Just say it. I'm trying to fix this for us." Quiet horror number 2. Hearing your wife's sister talk about destroying you like it's a household chore. Kevin's face went gray. I looked at him. "That bracelet," I said, voice shaking. "The screenshot. Your bracelet. Where is it?" He swallowed hard. "Andre, where is it?" I snapped. His eyes darted to Marco for a split second. And that was it. That was the whole truth in one terrified glance. Marco's calm finally cracked. "This is over," he said, and he reached like he was going to grab my phone. The security guard stepped in instinctively, arm out, blocking him. "Sir." That tiny moment was enough. Kevin's shoulders sagged like the fight drained out of him. "I didn't take the money," he blurted, voice breaking. "Marco did. He's been doing it for months. He needed someone to pin it on, and he said you were perfect because you're strict about budgets and everyone already thinks you're intense." My stomach flipped. "So you helped him?" Kevin's eyes filled. I didn't think it would go this far. Tiana let out a sob. "Solange said Andre was going to leave me if I didn't. If I didn't show I was on my family's side. She said she borrowed money and Marco was holding it over her. She used our card. She hid the receipt because she knew you'd kill her." I stared at her, and my hands were shaking so hard the phone trembled. Quiet horror number 3. Realizing the people closest to you didn't just make mistakes, they made choices, and you were the price. Marco's jaw tightened. "You're all emotional. None of this will hold." But his voice wasn't smooth anymore. The security guard spoke into his radio, fast and clipped. "We need police at the side entrance." Marco's eyes snapped to the guard, then to me, then to Kevin, and I saw it. Pure calculation. Exit routes, damage control. A man doing math with people's lives. 2 squad cars pulled in within minutes, lights painting the snow blue and red. An officer approached, hand resting near his belt, looking at the mess of us like he'd seen 1,000 versions of this and hated all of them. I held my phone out like a lifeline. "Officer," I said, voice raw, "I have video proof I was home at the time they're accusing me of being inside, and I have messages showing my wife was pressured to make a statement." The officer watched the clip, then looked at Marco. "Sir, step back." Marco's smile tried to return, but it looked glued on. "This is an internal employment matter." The officer's eyes stayed flat. "Not if there's extortion, falsified statements, or theft." Kevin started talking again, words spilling out like confession was the only way to breathe. He told them about repacking inventory, about Marco's private stash, about being told to wear my vest once to test the cage lock, about Solange taking the vest from my apartment like it was a favor, not a crime. Marco's face finally went empty. In the end, it didn't feel like justice. It felt like paperwork and cold air and my heart pounding while strangers decided whether my life was real. HR called me the next day, suddenly polite, suddenly concerned, suddenly wanting to review new evidence. Miss Rivera emailed a short note that made my hands shake all over again. "Andre, confirming we spoke Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. regarding your son's reading plan." It was such a small, normal sentence, and it saved me. My name got cleared. Quietly, of course, no big apology, no announcement to the group chat that had already judged me. Just a stiff email. Administrative leave rescinded. Like it was a minor inconvenience and not a hole punched through my chest. Kevin didn't text me after, not once. I heard later he resigned. That's the soft word people use when they don't want to say ran. Solange didn't come to our place again. Tiana's mother called and left a voicemail that was half anger, half prayer. "You shamed the family. You chose a man over blood." Tiana listened to it in the kitchen with her hands over her mouth, shaking like she was cold even with the heat on. We sat at our table after our son went to bed, the same table where that crumpled receipt had started everything. My keys were finally back on the hook. The apartment was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. "I'm sorry," Tiana whispered, eyes red. "I thought I was protecting us." I stared at my hands and felt tired down to the bone. "You were protecting them," I said, "and you almost buried me to do it." She nodded, crying without sound. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just felt something in me go still, like a door closing gently but permanently. We decided to separate a week later, not with drama, with calendars and paperwork and co-parenting apps and long silences in the kitchen while our son colored at the counter like nothing had happened. Tiana started therapy. She set boundaries with her mother, real boundaries, not promises. She blocked Solange. The first time she did it, she shook like she was stepping off a cliff. And me? I kept the camera. I kept it plugged in, pointed at the door, recording our ordinary life, because now I knew how quickly ordinary could be rewritten. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the echo of that notification. Motion detected. Like the sound of a truth trying to survive.